Hey everybody, you're watching We the Fandom, where we discuss comic books, pop culture, and the fandom experience. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to see more content. How's it going everybody? Jacob here at We the Fandom. Today I'm reviewing episode 4 of Hawkeye, a series you can watch on Disney+, which most people are ignoring because it's a show about Hawkeye and the least interesting Avenger. That's what I thought at first too, but I'm actually really enjoying the show. Now unfortunately, in episode 4, we don't see any Kingpin, even though we got little hints of him in episode 3. We also don't see any recognition between Hawkeye and Jack Duquesne, even though the two characters have a connection in the comics, with Jack Duquesne as the swordsman having been the former mentor of Hawkeye. Though we do find out that Jack is the CEO of Sloan Limited, which is a shell corporation that funds the Tracksuit Mafia. And that scene that we were left on in the last episode with Jack holding the Ronin sword to Clint's throat is quickly diffused, and Kate's mom, Eleanor, even gets to meet Hawkeye and tries to convince him to drop the case, which it seems like she does to protect her daughter, but it's also more likely that she's doing it to protect herself and Jack from an Avenger finding out their ties to the criminal underworld. Hawkeye does end up leaving, but he does manage to get his Ronin sword back. Now this is followed up by a romantic moment between Jack and Eleanor that Kate seems strangely okay with, possibly even accepting of, which is weird because the last few episodes she has been nothing but hostile toward Jack. While she does note that she hasn't seen her mom this happy in years, there's also the fact that she's learning more about Jack and his criminal ties. To me, this scene was just weird and didn't really fit in. We also learned that the watch that the tracksuit stole from the auction, which kicked off the whole series to begin with, actually belongs to an associate of Hawkeye, someone whose identity he's trying to protect, and just one of the many loose ends that Clint is trying to tie up before he can get back to his family. Clint and Kate do end up finding the watch at the end of the episode, only to realize that the apartment that they find it in belongs to Maya Lopez, aka Echo, who attacks Kate Bishop, with another black-clad figure fighting Clint, but seemingly not working with Maya. The fight ends with Maya fleeing the scene after being shot in the chest with an arrow, and the other fighter being unmasked and revealed as Yelena Belova, a Black Widow and the adopted sister of Natasha Romanoff. Now, to some people that might have been a surprise. It wasn't so much to me. There were already rumors that she might appear in the series, as well as the fact that in the post-credit scene of Black Widow, which I talked about in my review of the film, the character Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, who seems to possibly be a villain going around and recruiting people for her own team, which I think will either be the Dark Avengers or the Thunderbolts, characters such as U.S. Agent at the end of The Falcon and Winter Soldier. But at the end of the film, she tasked Yelena with killing Hawkeye, telling Yelena that he was responsible for Natasha's death. Of course, I'm hoping that she doesn't succeed in that task, but given that it seems like Kate Bishop is likely to take on the role of Hawkeye at the end of the series, it is possible. And since I didn't have a full review of the first 2 episodes of Hawkeye, I wanted to do a deeper dive on the characters of Clint Barton and Kate Bishop, just giving a little bit more of my opinion on how they are portrayed in the series. In every episode so far, we've seen Clint deal with his guilt and grief over what happened to Natasha Romanoff during Avengers Endgame, which I would guess the writers wrote in the show just because it makes sense, this being a show that focuses on Hawkeye and him being Black Widow's partner for years. But I think it also gives some more recognition of Black Widow, because there wasn't as much of a focus on her death in Avengers Endgame. It was largely overshadowed by the death of Tony Stark, which arguably he did kick off and lead the entire franchise up until his death, so that does make sense. But in this episode, you can really see the signs of PTSD that he has, and I hate to use that term. I think people these days are too quick to throw the term PTSD around, but in this case I think it rings true. When Kate Bishop was thrown over the edge by Yelena Belova during their fight, Clint had to re-experience nearly the same moment of when Natasha sacrificed herself in Avengers Endgame. Luckily this time, Clint was able to save the person, but it still hit him hard enough to the point that he decides that he doesn't want a partner. Now Clint Barton to me is easily the most relatable Avenger, not my favorite, but the most relatable. He's got no powers, he uses a bow and arrow to fight crime, to fight aliens and robots. He's not like a military grunt, but he's a grounded character who's just there to do the job he was trained to do in a world with gods and superheroes. He's a family man who has to worry about not just keeping his family safe, but also being able to spend time with them, balancing his work life where he was constantly away from his family working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and with the Avengers. And remember, this guy isn't an Asgardian, he's not the Hulk, he doesn't even have a super soldier formula, which is somewhat implied that even the Black Widows may have some degree of physical enhancements just like they do in the comics. And at this point, Hawkeye isn't working with the Avengers, so he doesn't have access to nanotech skin grafts. He's not even working with S.H.I.E.L.D., so he doesn't have access to their medical aid. And as I mentioned before, he doesn't have the rapid healing factor of some of his teammates. This guy's sitting down with pouches of frozen margarita mix or whatever the hell taped to his body to bring down the swelling after a fight. This is a well-trained but regular human He's, I would say, especially relatable if you've ever served in the military. I think most people who served at the very least would walk away with some minor joint issues, maybe even some tinnitus. And whereas Captain America may be the guy that more military folk look up to because of his patriotism, on a practical level, I would say Clint Barton is the more relatable character. Now let's talk about Kate Bishop so far, because I thought she was okay in the first episode. Again, she doesn't suffer for being a Mary Sue character because we got to see at least a montage of her training from childhood. And for those of you who don't know, a Mary Sue is a female character in fiction that is unrealistically lacking in flaws and weaknesses. Rey from Star Wars is a great example of a Mary Sue. Kate Bishop is so far not that kind of character, and yet I've grown to like her less and less over each episode. On the one hand, she is doing what all new young heroes do, where she constantly states that she understands the risks of being a hero while demonstrating how immature and inexperienced she is. And that part I'm fine with. That is a normal part of every young hero's journey. That's our journey as kids and teenagers growing up in the real world, realizing that we don't know everything and still have a lot to learn. But while her character is demonstrating all the normal characteristics of a hero in training, at least half of her dialogue is spent lecturing Hawkeye on how to be a better hero, specifically regarding his image and how he interacts with people. And this is despite the many times that he has insisted that he's not trying to sell himself, that he was trained to be a ghost and a weapon. So on the one hand, the writers want you to see a vibrant young hero learn from the more experienced veteran, but at the same time, they want to show her to be this confident girl boss, the majority of whose dialogue is going to consist of lecturing the man on how to do his job better. Well, you can't have it both ways, Disney. It's like she's being written by two different writers, and it's not only confusing, but making the character look bad. It's like you don't want her character to be taken seriously. Assuming that she takes over the role of Hawkeye at the end of this series, I don't see the finale being very satisfying. I think the majority of viewers are going to see the finale and feel like they missed something, because I don't see enough character development or dramatically better writing being able to occur within the last two episodes. That being said, I will continue to watch the show to see Clint resolve his past as Ronin and figure out a way to get back to his family for Christmas. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode in the comment section below. And as always, please like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy my content. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss out on a new episode. I'll see you all next time.